Hello, welcome to a New Year's Eve special, I guess you could say, interview with Rajnish Sharma. He's a good friend of mine, a good friend of the show's, and he's been working in indie film for quite some time now. We're going to be discussing independent film, the film industry, and the Snyderverse and the effect it has on the film industry. So I'm going to bring him in right now. Welcome, Raj.
Evening. Thank you for having me on the show.
Hey, thanks for coming here on New Year's Eve. How you been?
Been good. Been really good. I've been enjoying the time off. Just Christmas with the family, and just having the time just to have a little bit of downtime. Because come next year, I'm going to be an absolute maniac with so many plans and so many things that I want to do. So yeah, just to be a bit of a person has been really cool.
Right, it just before the Christmas break, you had filmed a short. You had said, and you're working on one now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I managed to shoot something. It's come along really well. The edit is looking beautiful. I think I might need a couple of pickup shots, but yeah, should be ready about mid-January for that.
That's
So that'll
excellent.
be yeah. So it'll be ready for them.
So we're gonna have to get the bad news out of the way first. I just found out recently Betty White passed away. So rest in peace, Betty White. Made it to 99. Hopefully, we were hoping she'd make it past 2021, which is unfortunate. Her her filmography and her career is stellar and has transcended generations. So,
Yeah,
anything to add to that, Raj?
yeah. No, I mean you pretty much said it. I mean she transcended so much. I mean, just a force of nature within the film and television industry. Anybody, I don't think anybody who's anybody doesn't know who Betty White was. Um, Especially, I mean, there's this thing going around the internet where she had a show early in the 50s, and she was one of the first people to allow a black performer on her show.
Mm,
And I mean, it just says so much about her character that during that period, in the United States, during that period in time, that she would have the balls just to say, "Well, no, fuck it. This is a talented human being, and yeah, I'm going to take a stand on this." So it just says so much about her character that she would do that, and everything that she's been in. I mean, I can't think of anything that I think that she was bad in anyway. So yeah, I think
agreed.
the world's a poorer place without her, definitely.
Yeah, Kaz has a good point. She was 2 weeks away from a century too. Well, I'm glad she made it that long. So yeah, let's check in with the chat first. We got Clint Baker here. Hey Clint, thanks for joining.
Hey, Clint.
Sean Harrigan is here. Thanks for joining, Sean. Good to see you. Restore the Snyderverse. And Chrisla's here. Greetings. Happy New Year's Eve. Happy New Year's Eve. She was universally loved. All right, Raj. So we'll start with independent filmmaking in general. How were you always? Did you always know you were going into film? Because with me, it was I was into comic books first, and that's what I thought I was going to do for the rest of my life.
All right. Well, I mean, I always had it in the back of my mind. I think with you ask most filmmakers or most creatives, a lot of times they grew up doing exactly that. They read comic books, they watched movies, they watched TV shows, played video games, and that kind of fed into what they were going to do. And I always had these ideas of what I wanted to do. I always knew it was going to be creative, but filmmaking for me, it was always in the back of my mind. It was always there. And I think when it really dawned on me that this is something that I wanted to do, 12 years old, inside of the Odeon cinema,
Hmm.
watching Lord of the Rings, for me, that was it. It was just watching this thing, it just blew me away, because obviously watching films before, I mean, there's obviously there's a narrative and a story there, but I never watched something where I felt like I was involved in the story, where I felt like I was actually part of the adventure, and it dawned on me at that moment, and I was like, someone dreamed this,
Hmm.
someone actually they dreamed this, and you can actually do that. You can dream for a living, and you can show that to the rest of the world. So that got me hooked in. I was like, yeah, this is definitely what I want to be doing in my life. So Yeah, but I never really like in terms of the actual filmmaking though. I never got into it until way later on because I started writing little stories. I started like doing like little sketches and stuff. But yeah, I made a little short film while I was in college. I don't know what the stage is in Canada, but well, there's a period between high school and university, and it's kind of it's kind of that buffer in between
Yeah,
stage.
in Canada, North America, here we call that taking a year off.
Right. Okay. Well, it's a well, I mean, it's a formal education. It's A level, so it's
Okay.
so these courses that you have to take in order to qualify to reach certain points to apply for university for certain degrees. And I remember, yeah, just making a short film, just part of the course, and yeah, that was it. I loved it, and I just wanted to do more of that. Went to uni, studied film and TV production. Yeah, in hindsight, so hindsight's always 2020.
Hmm.
In terms of the education I got, I would probably would have been better off just buying a camera and just making my own stuff at that point. Because the 3 years I was there just did not feel like it was worth the time. I mean, don't get me wrong, getting drunk and getting laid was all fun, but I wanted to make movies as well, and I didn't get to.
Yeah,
No.
film school is an experience for sure, but you only really get out of it what you put in, right? And
Of
how
course.
tenacious you want to be.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
so you never made any films through high school. Like when I was 12, I started self-publishing comic books. I did that all through high school. But we, on the weekends, instead of like going to parties and getting drunk and stuff, we'd grab a video camera and a bunch of us would be doing like stop animation videos and short films, live action stuff, go out and shoot stuff like that. You never did that through high school? Did you do
Um,
any drawing or like what did you have anything creative going on while you were in high school?
well, well, yeah. Yeah. I mean, creatively, I was sketching, I was drawing. I mean, I always had a talent, always a creative talent for that anyway. Actually, when I was younger, I won some national awards just for art competitions that I entered into. But
Oh,
in
excellent.
ter- yeah, but in terms of actually picking up a camera, um, I mean, I think I remember maybe doing that once and loving it, but not really doing it consistently enough. So
Right.
yeah, I was a bit of a late bloomer when it came to the actual filmmaking side of it.
Now, for me,
So
I had a problem getting what I was seeing in my head down on paper with the comic books.
yeah.
And my friend called me up and he said, "Hey, you want to go to film school?" Did you ever find that, like, with your art and trying to express yourself? Did you find that, like, I thought it would be easier with film, but it's a whole different beast. It's not easier, but yeah, it's a whole different beast. Did you ever find which medium? Like, obviously, it's film for you, but did you ever
Yeah.
find that like it was easier for you to get stuff out on film, especially in the last, I don't know, 10 years? How long have you been making your short films for?
Um, well, I think yeah, starting in the next few hours, when once we reach 2022, that will be about 6 years doing that, and
Okay, great.
so yeah, and it would be about 9 years in the industry as a whole because I spent the first 3 years just freelancing as a runner or a PA, personal assistant,
Great.
trying to get experience. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the medium of filmmaking, I always found that you know images always came up in my mind. Like I could always visualize what the story was. But then, yeah, you're right. Getting it down on paper, getting the script written, and then translating that. It's always a different thing because you want it to be as close as you imagine it in your mind's eye, but it's never exactly that. So yeah, it's always difficult. I think.
Yeah, as long as you get those broad strokes that you're looking for and that feeling that you're looking for, um, you can be. And then, like, we'll get into editing later because that's a whole nother ball game there.
Yeah.
Uh, so when you went into uni, you said that in hindsight, you wish that you went and got your own education. Robert Rodriguez's Rebel Without a Crew and Google and stuff like that.
Pretty much. Yeah.
What did you actually did? What were the benefits of going to university for film school?
You know what? I think. the one thing that pops up in the back of my mind, I think that was very useful. It gave me a chance to think. I think going to uni, going to film school, well, I call it film school, it was a bachelor's degree. But yeah, going to uni, I think it gave me
Hey,
that.
Raj, I went to a technical school. It was 9 months for 15 grand.
Right,
But hey,
right,
I
fair
went to
enough.
film school. I learned more on film sets and staying behind after class in that situation. So
Yeah, well, I mean, I can attest to that as well. But yeah, it was just a case of because I think the problem is that when you're out in the real world and you're trying to earn a living and you're trying to just survive. I mean, your mind isn't really thinking conceptually. You're just in survival mode. You're thinking, oh shit, when's the next meal coming? Can I pay the next bill?
right,
Whereas with uni, I think that freed me up just to organize my thoughts. And I think that's important if you're going to be creative. As an artist anyway, like you need to have thoughts and feelings and philosophies and just things you want to get out of your system. And like obviously for me, the medium of filmmaking works perfectly. Yeah, and it is important because there are too many people when they start out. They're just making films about other films, which is fine. I
yeah,
mean, if you're Tarantino, that's absolutely fine. But it's just, I think people just they want to know who you are. Like, what do you have
right.
to say? You know, I mean, what is your opinion? I mean, they're investing in you as a director, as the storyteller, because they want to know what your perspective is, right? And I think that's what most films are. I mean, it's storytelling and it's someone having a viewpoint to say, well, have a look at this. This is what I think, or this is
Right.
how I see the world. So,
So would you say in most cases there's a learning curve, like when you're starting out and you're making your first short films, that it's natural to emulate the films that inspire you? It's just like creating a drawing style. You find the drawing styles that you love and you combine them all into your own style. Like so, like fresh out of film school, short films. Well, that's a Tarantino film. That's a Kevin Smith film. Uh, that's uh, that's a Ridley Scott film. Tony Scott film. Uh, would you say that's fair in your way of saying making movies about other movies?
yeah, I think like for most people when they start out anyway, like when they're like 18, 19 years old, like you can't fault people for that because I mean they've not really lived, you know. I mean,
Yeah,
how much life experience does a 18, 19-year-old kid have anyway? I mean, we all see the tropes about, we see student films where, oh, they're waking up in bed and they're pressing an alarm and some existential crisis about drugs.
that's
Uh,
never start the character waking up in bed, hitting an alarm.
no,
But
no,
guess what the first shot of my short film was out of film school?
getting out of bed, hitting the alarm.
Hitting the alarm, yeah.
Yeah,
And I would just watch something recently too, and it was that. I'll think about that. Keep going though. Sorry.
no, no, no. But that's the thing. Like everyone goes through that, and you can't
Yeah,
you can't fault people for that. And so like some 18, 19-year-old kid, like they haven't got it all figured out, and they shouldn't. What 80? Like no one at that age has got it all figured out, but we have to start somewhere. I think
yeah.
that's the
To
thing.
learn by doing, right?
Exactly, exactly, and I think that's the whole life experience thing. Because I do remember before Christmas, I was at a networking event, and there was some kids there, and they're just graduating uni, and I told them, I said, well, watch loads of films, like especially films that are way, way before you were born, you know, and live. Go out and live a
Mm.
life, just travel the world, get your heart broken, drink and do a podcast. I don't know. Like, do something, right? You know what I mean? It's just that thing. I think it's just it's a natural progression. I think it's like anything. Like the more you do it, the better you get. You know.
You made a good, interesting point about watching films before you're born. Are you finding that a lot of people in your, I guess, that you meet along the way or in your circle, aren't generally educated on films that have come before them?
You know what? I would say that there is a good sizable amount of filmmakers, especially within the filmmaking community that I'm at. Yeah, they're not doing that. And it's a shame because you do really learn a lot about just about the stories that have come before,
Mm.
and you don't have to like all of them. I mean, I've watched Citizen Kane. I've appreciated it, but I find it boring, and that
Do you?
is, oh yeah, um, yeah. But I know, but I do appreciate the storytelling. I appreciate everything that came before it because without Citizen Kane, there's so many other movies, so many other stories that just would not have been able to follow. I mean, a lot of the techniques that are in there. I mean, it serves into a lot of the stuff that we use to this day. But yeah,
Yeah,
I think the
they were birthed in that film, some of the techniques.
pretty much, yeah. And
Yeah.
well, I mean, great thing about Orwell is just he didn't give a shit. Like he's just 25 years old, completely ignorant. He just went, "Fuck it, I'm gonna make a movie," and he ended up making Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
So yeah, and yeah, and you know what? I think you can like what you like. There's nothing wrong with that. Like whatever you like. Art is subjective, taste is subjective, but like if you do want to make movies, it only makes sense that you do watch, the classics, the things that have come before, and you don't have, like I said before, you don't have to like all of them. It's like being a musician. Like there's no point in, and it's probably a bad analogy, and Clint in the chat is probably going to kill me for saying this, but like if you're gonna be a musician, like it make absolutely no sense if you hadn't listened to, I don't know, um, the Beatles or was
Led
it
Zeppelin.
NWO? Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
like it make no sense. Like if like what's his name? Fucking hell, Jimi Hendrix. Like there'd be no point. Most people would look at you like an idiot. Like, oh, you're a musician, but you haven't listened to. What? How does that make sense, right? So
Right. Right.
yeah.
So you're a filmmaker and you've never seen Taxi Driver or All the President's Men. Have you seen All the President's Men?
I did. Yeah, yeah. It was part
Yeah.
of my movie watch list, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was definitely definitely some very poignant stuff that's very reflective of today's society. Um, yeah,
I find that the more that I watch films from other decades, you just see that history is repeating. And like even like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago, it's especially in the last, I'd say 50 years,
yeah,
that message is still pretty much the same throughout, except in the 90s, because the 90s is different. Um, anyways, getting off track here. How about you tell me, like, so you did your short film after university, you said?
yeah. So
Yeah. What
yeah,
did you shoot on?
right. Well, there was actually a period before I actually shot my first film. So
Mm,
once I graduated, I just realised I didn't learn enough. I didn't feel like I learned anything useful. So for about 2 3 years, I ended up just traveling up and down the UK, being a PA and a runner for different TV shows, different independent works, documentaries and stuff. And I mean, it was a fun period, but I wasn't really getting paid that much. And yeah, it was very much like the Wild Wild West at that point. But yeah, it actually took me talking to a director when I got a traineeship for a program called Fresh Meat, which is on Channel 4 in this country.
okay.
And this was right before I got a contract to work on Coronation Street as a runner.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was a nice little buffer in between. It was the director. Like he pulled me aside one day because a lot of people on set were asking me, "All right, okay, Raj, what do you actually want to do in this industry?" And I kept saying director. I want to be a director. I want to be a storyteller. To be fair, most of them were lovely about it. Only one person really gave me shit for it. To be fair, like that's a really shitty thing to do to someone who's trying to get experience. That's just not cool. But
Well, to tell them don't set your sights to be a director.
yeah, it was just basically saying like, oh, don't tell people. Yeah, just don't tell anyone that you'll embarrass yourself. Like the goal. To be fair, the
Mm.
goal was just a fucking dickhead anyway.
Well, that sounds like that they failed at that, and
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. Well, I mean, probably, but like he was very unpopular on set anyway. Like most people hated him. Yeah, he was just a complete dick. But yeah, no, it took me to talking to the director, and because most of them were saying, well, you need to talk to him. So
Right.
so he asked me, so like, well, Raj, what do you want to do in this industry? And I told him, well, I want to do your job. I want to be a director. I want to be a storyteller. Like, I want to work with actors. I want to really formulate all of this and tell a story. And he looks at me and he says, well, Raj, you can't be here. You know, you can't do these kind of jobs. I mean, you
Good.
might, yeah. He said, like, you might be a first AD. You may even be a producer, but you'll never be a director because, like, the proof is in the pudding. You've got to go out and start making stuff. So, you know, which was amazing. That was so cool just getting to talk to him about that.
Mm-hmm.
And even the big head honcho, the producer, she was so lovely. Like she was the same way. She was like, yeah, no, like you need to follow that advice and go out and start making stuff. And yeah, that was nearly 6 years ago. And since then, I just started making films and I've not looked back. And it's been amazing. And oh yeah, to answer your question, I think from what I remember, I think it was a Canon. Was it? Yeah, it was a Canon 7D, if I remember that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. Um,
How have you ever worked with film?
um, well, I mean, I did make a couple of little things. I did make a few things on my iPhone. I mean, I made something when I was at college, but no, I never really got a chance to shoot anything before then. Like yeah, like even the film school I went to, like it was ridiculous because they got us shooting on DV tapes. You know
Yeah.
those little cassette tapes, and it's just ridiculous because like this was during the period where people were using digital, and it was just like this is look, I'm spending how much money to be here? We can't even use like a 5D camera. Like
Right.
that's, yeah, it's ridiculous. Like we
Yeah.
would have
Outdated equipment
exactly like we would have been better off honestly if we'd have just used 35 mil film. You
or
know,
your
because
cell phones.
oh yeah, yeah, well that's it. The cell phones that we got so much better. And you know, people look at me like I'm crazy for saying this, especially people that start out. I tell them like, you don't need the biggest, fanciest cameras. Your iPhone does a good job. Like you shoot something on an iPhone, get that edited, get that chopped up, get it rendered. That's it. You've made a film. You can
Yeah.
make decent movies on it. You know, Soderbergh has made so many great films on his like that film Unsane, and I think there's another
Mm-hmm.
one, Tangerine, which is a great comedy about transvestite hookers in LA.
Mm.
That was all filmed on iPhones. So yeah, you don't have to be obsessed with the latest cameras because I mean the camera isn't going to direct the film for you anyway.
That's
You
right.
know?
And I'm right there with you. I tell people all the time, and I get that quizzical look too. I say it's not the tools that you use, it's the story you tell, right? It's how you execute it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Um,
I mean,
when I was in film school, uh, I was working at Blockbuster, and I met a lot of people in the film industry. This is in Toronto, that would come in there, and I would just talk about film and stuff. I try and get people to rent like Citizen Kane and stuff instead of Deuce Bigelow. You know, we had one copy of Citizen Kane. We had 80 copies of Deuce Bigelow. I was a bit of a snob when I was 19, but I met this one guy, and he said he was a lighter on film sets, right? And he had been doing it for 20 years. He started out as a grip. He wanted to be a director, but then he got into the union, and the money was too good, and he had a family, and that was his career, lighting the whole time.
yeah,
I said to myself, well, that's not what I want to do. I want to create, right?
mm,
Um, so I never joined the union. I never joined IATSE. I never joined the Filmmakers Union. I've just been independent for the last 20 years.
well,
And the other thing is in that film school, we were on DV tapes too. They were a bit newer because this is in 2000, 1999, 2000. They're a bit newer there. But we had a classroom of, I think, 40, and we only had 8 Sony mini DV cameras, and then we had 2 16 Aries XL, and two of us got chosen to, because you had to promote your pitch package. You get your script, your shooting locations locked down, all that stuff, right, Raj?
yeah,
And you have to present that to the dean and then the screenwriting teacher, and they choose 8 for mini DV and then 2 for 16 mil. And I shot on 16 mil, and I'm glad I had that experience because nowadays with the Canon 7Ds and the Rebels, or even the Red Eyes, you have so much freedom to move around, right? But 16 mil is like static. You can pick it up. I did some handheld stuff, but I remember a good friend of mine at the end of shooting the film, he goes, this was a fun experience. I'm looking forward to your next one where you actually take the camera and move it around, And I was like, well, why didn't you tell me that during production? Because when you have so many things going on as a director, it's hard to. One thing I learned from that was to make sure that your vision doesn't get lost. You don't get lost in the technical and production side. Have you ever had an experience like that?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's the biggest challenge any any director is going to have, is that because you have so many different responsibilities that you have to look at, and especially if you're doing your prep in pre-production, which you should. And it is surprising how many indie filmmakers just rush that process and then get straight onto set, which is always a bad idea. Always a bad idea. But yeah, I mean, there is so much that you have to think about. I mean, you have to think about, if you're doing reversal shots, like if you think about crossing the line, and whether or not, like, talking to the cinematographer about the type of lighting that you want, like, is this creating the right mood and the right emotion? And it's all important, by the way, all important, with your production designer and with your whoever's got the costume, about, okay, is this going to be in red and black or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Biggest challenge, shotting all of that down as soon as you shout action, and then just concentrating on the actor's performance and what's actually happening throughout the frame lines. Because if, like, especially, and this is something that you don't learn at film school, I think maybe the National Film and Television Vision School or Raindance, I think they teach it a little bit, but actors' performances are so important, and that's just something you don't learn. And no, and a lot of directors get scared from actors. They do, and I think the biggest problem is that if there's an issue on set, if there's an issue with the shot, like the 85 mil, it's a little bit too tight. It's a little bit. Let's get it to a 50. Shallow depth of field, we can soften that up a little bit. The lighting's a little bit too harsh. Let's soften that a bit. It's all tangible. You can't go to an actor and tell them, be angry, be sad,
Right.
cry for me, cry right now. Like that, it just doesn't work. They're human beings, have got emotions, and yeah, that's the biggest challenge. Like, you've got to shut all of that down. As doesn't matter if it's a big project or a small one. Shut it down. Actors' performances, are they being emotionally truthful with their performance at this moment in time? Does it make sense to the story? Are you feeling something from that? It's like and it's that, honestly, there's no excuse. If you're directing, if you really are a director, like, you've got to pay attention to that, because you're not going to get credit for anything else.
Because that's what's on screen. Like, you make a very good point. Like, your pre-production and your production and the technicality of everything, the execution, that's building the foundation for, say, a house. And then the actors are the frame of the house and the interior of the house. And if you just have it all paper mache, it's going to fall apart.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, look at what happened with the Star Wars prequels.
No, you're absolutely right. I think, and that's the biggest problem with indie films, as opposed to what you see on Netflix or at the studio level. Like, getting the visuals, getting the technology to match that isn't that difficult. I mean, honestly, you go to any local film festival, you'll see some beautiful films, and it's stuff that would absolutely pass off as a Netflix series. It would pass off in any major multiplex cinema screen, but it would do absolutely well. The difference between indie films and what you'd see at the studio level, it's story and an actor's performance. Those are the things that usually lack at indie filmmaking level. It really does. I mean, it's one of those things. It's just, it takes time to really master that and to hone it. Because I mean, I think the problem is that I think with some directors, they'll they're only interested if the actors have just said the lines. Have they said the lines? Great, we can move on. That's not really what it's
Hmm.
about. You're looking for more subtext. There's more nuance, you know.
Well, what about Eastwood? He usually does 2 takes.
Oh, but that guy's just like a grandmaster at this. I mean, he already knows what he wants. Like
Yeah.
he's got the balls just to say fuck it. No, that's it. Like we can move on. But it's no, honestly, it's that thing. It's just like there's a difference between someone saying I'm fine as opposed to I'm fine.
Yeah.
It's very
It's
different.
the nuances and subtlety.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think just understanding people goes a long way. You know, just understanding what the characters are and what they're about. You know, because like you can't hide away from that. Like any audience that's watching your movie, if they don't feel connected, if they don't feel any type of emotional connection or empathy with what the characters are going through, it doesn't matter. All you've done is created a very beautiful selection of images. You know that most people are just not that interested. Like they'll get bored. Like the audiences are too sophisticated, but it just won't put up with it.
Agreed. Okay, so it's your first day on set. You've done months and months of pre-production. First day on set. Where does your mind go? Like, does everything wash away and you go right to the actors? What is your brain's plan of execution here? What kind of mindset do you get into?
Right. Well, with me, I'm just making sure that everyone on set's okay. You know, I'm just talking to everyone like, "Hey, how we doing, guys? You know, gonna have a great time. Let's just have fun." I'll try and avoid the whole pep talk, like, "Yeah, rah," that whole rah rah speech.
Hmm.
Because the fact is like in pre-production, if we've done a table read, that's already been done anyway. But it's just a friendly, like, "Yeah, this is what we do. Hey, guys, this is what we're doing." But yeah, it's just to make sure everyone's on the same wavelength. Everybody knows exactly what's going on. You know, just to say, okay, well, this is what we're doing first. This is what we're setting up, and then yeah, then from there, we're just gonna take it from there. Any questions, just let me know. But but yeah, honestly, like 99% of my job already done in pre-production, if I'm
Right.
honest.
Good
You know,
man. Yeah, pre-production is key. You mentioned table reads there. Do you do a lot of rehearsals or just a table read?
I try to do both. Um, Main reason is that like with the table reads, I think that is a great place to really get the actors more than anything, just to get them comfortable. And you know, it's also a chance really just to discuss any issues, any gripes they may have with the scripts. And with table reads, as opposed to every other stage, I won't do much directing. You know, I'll just listen to what they have to say.
Hmm.
You know, like, what's going on in their mind? Because well, this is the thing. Like Christopher Nolan put it perfectly. That actors are great students of human emotion, and the worst thing that you can do to an actor is bullshit them. They're not gonna
Yes.
like it, like because a lot of them already feel pissed off and resentful because they've probably had experience with other directors who have just treated them like idiots. You know, where they'll say, "Oh, you do your acting stuff over here. I'm gonna do the important stuff with the camera over there," and it's not good. And actors like they're collaborators, they're potential collaborators who will have great ideas, and I think humility is an important aspect. Like you've got to be humble enough to listen to good ideas, and I think with the table read, that's what I do. More than anything, I get them to read it out, answer any questions, and just really open up the open up the floor, just so we can have a conversation. Like, okay, what's working for you? What are you not quite understanding? I mean, do you have some other ideas in this area or maybe that area? And it's not just to be nice. I mean, it's always nice
Hmm.
to be nice, but more than anything, it's just like if you get all that stuff out of the way, and then once you both get to a point where you're all happy, then the rehearsal period it's more of a case of getting everyone honed in, understanding who the characters are, what the motivations, you know what what the character's journey, what's the character's journey at this point, because you're not going to have time to discuss it on set. Like
No.
you don't have enough time. Like the clock's going to run out, and you can't be discussing about characters' childhood.
No,
Just
exactly.
it's just not going to work. So no, honestly,
And
preparation.
for sure. And I'm a huge believer in pre-production, and I think the table read benefits also from the actors getting comfortable with each other as well as a group.
Oh,
You're
absolutely.
kind of forming. It's your team meeting. You're forming a team before production goes in, and you guys are like Hogan's Heroes or something. And so Tarantino, he'll have a dinner before they start shooting, right, with his actors and his producer, and then him, and then they all just have a good time. And they get to know each other, and that sets the vibe for the production. If you're gonna have a stiff table read, then the production is going to be stiff. But if it's hey, we're enjoying each other's company, and feeling this vibe, okay, then chances are the production will go a bit more smoothly. Um, my friend and I, Dakota, at our studio back in Ontario, we participated in 24-hour film festival where they give you a line of dialogue, a prop, and a location to use. It's all at random. And so Dakota wanted to have her planning our meeting in, like, as soon as we got that information, Dakota wanted to have the meeting in the boardroom of the studio. But my apartment was like 30 feet away, right? I
Yeah.
said, no, let's go up. Let's go up to my apartment. I got a case of beer and we got juice and we got coffee and all that stuff. And we'll just like put on some music and 20 of us will all talk about what we want to do. But halfway through, everyone's having a good time. Everyone's energized, pumped. It doesn't feel stiff or anything. And Dakota looks at me and says, "Oh, this is a really good idea." And then I peeked into the boardroom through the windows, and they were all just sitting there at the desk, and they were scratching their heads, and they looked frustrated. It filming, I believe, is supposed to be fun, but you take it seriously.
Yeah.
But like if you're not enjoying it, then it feels like work, and then you're not going to get the maximum potential out of everyone. So that's
No.
why I like table reads for that reason, because you can set the vibe and have, but you also have to set your, you know, people are looking out for where you draw the line on that too, right? Would you agree with like discipline? Because you're the director, it's your vision, you have to get that out on camera.
No, absolutely. Like I 100% agree with everything you've just said. That's the thing. Like if you're directing or producing, specifically if you're directing, like you get the luxury of wanting to work with the people that you really get along with, because you
Mhm.
have to. I mean, if you choose the right people, it absolutely, yeah, it's absolutely a family. You're fun, like it's fun. I mean, you're all having a laugh. I mean, it's enjoyable. And to be fair, like it's a privilege because no one has a human right to make films, right? We do this because it's fun. We do this because we enjoy it, and we're
Mm.
doing it with great people. And but yeah, I mean, as a director though, you've got to be the boss. You've got to be in charge. Because I mean, this is going to sound quite jaded, but if you do choose the right people, it does become a big family. For the most part, it's a big family, but in a very small way, it isn't. And what I mean by that is, as much as you guys get along, you have to understand every department is going to have their own agenda. They're going to have their own priorities. The cinematographer is always going to prioritize the image quality. Sound department is, the sound quality, so on and so forth. And as a director, your main concern is just to get the overall thing, the quality of the overall film, the story, and to get it finished and to get it completed.
Captain of the ship.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, and that's where I think there's a lot of natural conflict between a director and a cinematographer or other departments because
Mm.
you're not there to make a cinematographer show reel. You're just not, and but you have to set the standard of what you think is acceptable and what isn't. And if you're working with the right people, they're not going to be arseholes about it, but you will have a DOP who says, come on, like, don't you want this done properly? Which what they mean is, I want more time to set up lights.
Right,
And
right.
you have, and you, but you're not saying no because you're an arsehole. You're saying it because you just don't have that time that you can give it to them. You
Hmm.
don't, and I mean, if you leave a DOP to his own devices, it's just going to be, you'll be on one lighting setup for the rest of the day. You'll have actors and
Exactly.
people waiting around. It becomes ridiculous. And But that's where I think you need to find the right people, because I don't, I don't know, like I think maybe at different levels, of this game, it may be different. But like with indie filmmaking, I think the problem is that, especially with people that are starting out, is that they get so enamored with it being perfect. Oh, the film has to be perfect, that they just put up with talented arseholes. They think they need that cinematographer. They think they need that gaffer. They think they need that, just the person who's just going to be difficult to work with, just going to be up their own arse. It's just mainly going to make it a miserable experience for everyone else. And you just don't. Like, no one person has the monopoly of making this film this great, brilliant thing. I
Well, that's
think, yeah.
also a huge learning curve, though, too,
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's a
And
difficult.
unless you make like half a dozen films, um, you don't realize they call it the magic of movie making, but a lot of the magic is you're filming on the day and you make it work. It's not, the DOP or didn't get to spend 6 hours lighting the set. He only got an hour and a half. The director, you didn't get to spend 2 hours on that one tracking shot you want to do. You only got 45 minutes, but at the end of the day, it all looks, not exactly what you wanted, but it all came together. To me, I think that's a lot of the magic of movie making. And then as you make more films that way, you understand and you learn more through that experience, and you can craft these visuals and these stories better that way. And then you take the chip off your block and you say, oh, this, because that's what the major directors do. That's what people that are comfortable in their craft do. They realize it's a fluid thing, directing and creating these films.
No, absolutely. I 100% agree. I mean, it is one of those things where, confidence is such a key thing in terms of being a filmmaker, being a director. But you've got to balance that with some humility as well.
Right. But you got to make
Sometimes,
sure that when you stand on set, you have your hand up to your chin and you're looking like you're deep in thought. Yeah, you got to make sure you do that for the black and white stills.
well, fucking, you know what? I get so much shit for that. Like, it's on my business card and everything.
No,
Honestly,
it's a brother. I'm just busting your balls. It's a great
I know.
photo. It wouldn't be a conversation with me if I didn't poke at you a little bit.
Of
We
course,
just
no.
want to say thanks to Leroy. Hello, Leroy. Thanks for joining the show. Thank you for the $5 super chat. We appreciate it. We really appreciate the super chat there, sir. And then you mentioned family, so you know what's coming there. Family. All right. I got that out of the way for you, Raj.
Yeah. Yeah. No, honestly, that picture, most people think that I actually I waited for the camera, and no, honestly, like, that was a genuine picture. Like, I did not know.
I know. I
Yeah.
saw it. It was like I've been in that situation myself too.
Yeah.
Kaz says you're thinking about family though. So tell me how you got started on the first film after you talked to that director 6 years ago.
Right. Okay. Well, this is an interesting one. So, after having this conversation, there was a guy that was operating certain videography jobs, and he had his own camera and stuff set up. Someone I knew from college. I gave him a call. I was literally staying at a youth hostel while I was working at this job, and yeah, it was literally the same day. As soon as I got off work, rang him up and I said, "Well, mate, you know what? I've got this idea for a film. I've got some time next year. Let's just make a film. Let's just make something." And he was like, "Yeah, cool. That sounds amazing." Ended up doing a course at Raindance. It was like a 5-week course in
Oh, nice.
so it was a directing foundation certificate, which is it was about 3 hours. It was about 3 hours per lesson once a week for about 5 weeks. So that's about 15 hours. Honestly, I felt like I learnt more in those 15 hours than 3 years at film school, which is insane. It's crazy. Um, it was just so much of the pragmatic stuff. But yeah, as soon as I got Yeah, as soon as I got the script written, which took a while.
Hold on,
Uh,
can we take a step back?
yeah, sure.
So, what made you decide to go to Rain Dance? You said Rain Dance or Sundance?
Rain Dance.
What made you decide to go to Rain Dance?
I just saw it advertised online. I just saw the
Okay.
course advertised, and I mean, I did hear about it beforehand. Like, actually, when I left film school, I was considering maybe should I do a masters, but then I'm thinking, well, if I'm not going to learn much doing a masters, it's a lot of money. Plus, I was broke at the time.
Mm.
But yeah, I just saw it online. I thought, you know what, and this sounds cool. Like, this sounds like something worthwhile. So I felt like I needed to have some prep going into making this short film. So
So during that time, did that change your perspective on anything? Like, did it change your gravitational pull towards an area in directing or producing?
well, yeah, I mean, it pulled me towards directing definitely because during that period I was trying every job, and I pretty much I've pretty much done every type of job. You know, I've done sound, I've done editing, I've done writing, producing, and even a lot of it on my own stuff. But yeah, directing is definitely the thing that's always calling out to me. It always calls out to me. You know, like, mate, it's like that little voice in your head goes, mate, yeah, come on, you want to direct this, like you want to make this script, right? But yeah,
Yeah.
no, but with this short film though, yeah, this is where it got interesting, you know, because it was a baptism under fire. So I got this guy who was yeah, so I got him in for the short film. We used his garage in order to shoot the film. Uh, we only had about 4 weeks to shoot it anyway, right? So this was pre-production, auditioning actors, getting the props in, shooting it. You know, this is like 4 weeks. It sounds like a lot of time. It really isn't.
Mm-mm.
You know, it really isn't. So, and the reason why we had to shoot it within a certain amount of time anyway is because most of the crew that we had, like, they were shooting a feature film, and if we didn't get it shot in that particular time, they were gone for the next 4 months.
Gosh.
Yeah. So so we got them in, and you know what? Hindsight's always 2020. Like, I could already tell there was some problems that were occurring because the DOP that I had for this, he was being a bit of a dick, to be honest. And like, if it was now, I would have just cut my losses and gone, mate, this isn't working. But I thought, oh no, like, inexperienced filmmaker. I was like, oh, we'll tough it out, it'll be fine. And yeah, yeah, it got so much to the point that on the day of the filming, I spent more time with him than my actors, and
Oh,
that's only because I didn't trust him to do what I was telling him to do. You know, because like, I would tell him how I wanted the shot frame, and then he would move the shot when I didn't think I was looking. I was like, mate, move it back. What are you doing? Right? It's that kind of thing. And the gaffer,
that's
sorry,
it's just not a good working relationship. You need some synergy there, especially with your DOP.
exactly. No, well, that's it. I mean, that was a learning curve that I got. I mean, it was just yeah, you know what? That was a lesson that I needed to learn as well, and it was just it wasn't great. I mean, the gaffer himself was like, he was piss arsing about, and he was just wasting time, and it just yeah, yeah, there was a lot of stuff going on. But the first day of shooting, and you're gonna love this. First day of shooting, we've got most of the shots in. We started about 5 o'clock in the morning because we needed to get it all organised properly. We've shot most of it. This is 11 hours in, and we're having a bit of a break. I'm talking to my actors. My editor actually visits the set. He visits what we're filming. My DOP taps me on the shoulder and says, "Like, Raj, you need to have a look at this." I I go down to the little area that they're all sitting around, and they're around this laptop. Place a clip for me. All the footage that was shot, it, for some reason, I don't know how this happened, but the timer, the color bars, the grid, like the grid that you use to frame, it all got burnt into the hard drive. 11 hours worth of filming down the toilet just like that, and it was just. I even went to my. I knew the answer. I don't know why I asked him, but I even went to my editor. I was like, "Can you fix this?" He's like, "Nope, no, can't be done." Right, so I was just like, Well, shit. Okay, so I go to my actors. I say, "I'm really sorry, guys, but a lot of the film has been compromised. We can't use it. It's just." And he was at the point. He was almost on the verge of tears, and he was just doing whatever. So I
Oh,
so I take a 5-second pause. I said to him, "Right, okay, so this is what we're doing. We're going to film the rest of this now. Everyone go home. Me and the DOP, like we're staying because I have a plan for how we're going to shoot the rest of this." So we shoot the rest of this. It's a couple of hours. I sit him down. I was like, "Okay, right, we don't have enough time to get everything that we needed to get. So this is how it's going to work. You're right. The story's going to change this way. We're going to have to eliminate that. Right, it's going to end up being a completely different thing." So I sit him down,
hmm.
I map it all out. I was like, "Okay, tomorrow this is what we're going to do, so we can save the film." The next day went a lot smoother. You know, we were all rested. Like he knew what he needed to do. I got everything that I needed. I actually got a great performance from my actor, which is fantastic. And yeah, it was just baptism under fire, like I said. I mean, it was just a case where shit hits the fan. Like you can't gripe, you can't moan.
You
You've
have
only
to
got
adapt.
pretty much, yeah. It's not the ending that I wanted for the film, but I got the film finished. I got it done, and it's out there, and it did well. So,
Good.
and yeah, that's filmmaking 101 though. Like, like if shit goes bad, it goes bad.
So what happened with all that footage? The 11 hours of footage, it just didn't record to the hard drive, or it was recorded to the camera and then the transfer got screwed up?
I don't know what exactly happened, but yeah, I think there was something to do with the wires. I don't know, but it all got burnt onto the SanDisk. You know, so yeah, you know how you have everything set up on your display, right?
Yeah.
You've got the battery and everything. It just all got burnt in, and it's just you know,
Oh, the overlay display got burnt into the
yeah,
actual footage.
pretty much, yeah.
Oh, that is, yeah, that was the DOP's fault.
Yeah. See, and that's the thing. Like he was making so many excuses. If he'd have just said, "I apologize, that was my fault," I would have forgot about it.
And then
But
just
the
move
fact,
on and try and
yeah,
fix it.
but that's it, and that's one of the things I've learned actually. Yeah, being a runner, people like, I don't get it. Like sometimes people don't want to admit they're wrong, but I would say if you make a mistake, and especially if people wanting to make films is trying to get into it, if you make a mistake, own up to it. Stick your hand
Mhm.
up and say, "I'm really sorry. That was my fuck up. That's my fault." People will forgive you if you just
Yep.
admit that you've been done something wrong.
I
Right.
made a mistake. How can I help to fix it?
Exactly.
And
Um.
then they're not mad anymore, or they're still angry, but they're like, okay, that's right. This is a task at hand. Time is money. We have to do this now.
Yeah.
Can't sit
Right.
around playing the blame game.
Right. Can you just give me a second? I'll be right back. I just
Yeah, take your time.
Cool. Cheers.
What they were trying to do. Once they said, "Okay, we got a few subscribers," it was back to the
Hamada burger.
and there's like
Brioche.
20 million.
Toasted. Hamada caramelized onion. Crudité. Lechuga. Hamada burger. Hamada spoon. Salt. Burger flip. Time to put a bit more crust on the other side. I use these red Leicester slices. Very easy. Easy with you, you know. Get a glass of water. Splash. Cover. Done. Now we prepare the burger. Mayonnaise. Fuck. Ketchup. Lettuce. This is iceberg that I've shredded up with a knife. Tomatoes, little ones, 3. Season. Caramelized onion. Okay. Good.
So it makes
Okay.
Some real stinkers there that he was the executive producer of. Kind of
Hamada burger. Well, technically this isn't the Hamada burger. Technically this is just my burger, Freddie Lauder's burger.
Specifically, what I was told is that So this is a source to hand almost all of the DC stuff over to VR. So
It has a nice weight to it. Can hold it in my hand.
Try and make like their version
And eat it.
away from the slight Snyder.
Bon appetit, my friends.
So,
burger.
Are you back, Raj? Oh, okay. So Raj is still away for a few minutes. Hey, CB3, how's it going? Hey, Bobby. Happy New Year's Eve. Thank you for joining us. Raj just had to go for a few minutes here. We have a special treat from Kaz. He took the shot that Snyder posted earlier, and he decided to do a 3D rendition of it. That's fantastic. Way to go, Kaz. Thank you for sending that. Let's watch it one more time. That's beautiful. Well done, sir. Well done. Okay, Clint. I once mixed a double record that I spent months on, and I dropped the HD, the hard drive, and broke it without a backup. I spent the next 2 weeks mixing day and night. Oh, some of the songs had 100 tracks. Oh, that is brutal. That's brutal. I'm sorry that happened there, Clint. Okay, so as we're waiting for Raj, let's take some questions for the comments. What's everyone doing for New Year's Eve right now? And does anyone have any goals for 2022? Or are they just going to wing it like I always do? So I don't think setting a date for a goal is a good thing. But I think setting it on January 1st, like everyone else, just setting yourself up for not failure, but maybe just disappointment. I don't know. I never really get disappointed anymore in not making my goals, because at least you're setting them and you're attempting it, because everything's a learning process. Hey, is Raj, you're back.
Yeah, I'm back.
I was just vamping.
Okay, cool.
Hey, did you want to see what Kaz did today?
Go on.
Check
Yeah,
this out. That's pretty sweet, eh?
Man, that is so cool. Yeah, I love that. Got some really talented people here on the chat. It's amazing.
Yeah, Kaz is all his 3D animation has just blown us out of the water, to be honest with you. We're very thankful for that. And then we got Clint, voiceover extraordinaire and musician extraordinaire. And then we got you that comes in with your monologues. I love cutting you off.
Oh, thank you.
So So you made that film, that short film.
Yeah.
How was the editing process? It was your first short, so it was your first time in the edit bay?
Yeah.
Or
So
a short?
So yeah, I mean that was my first time in the edit bay, but I think with this one, I got someone else to edit it for me, but I was with them throughout the whole thing, and
Right.
it actually wasn't that bad. Like, it was actually very smooth. I mean, he had years of experience anyway. It's no ego, like nothing to prove really. Very helpful, very cordial. Like working with him was great, and yeah, like I just explained exactly what the story is that I wanted to tell, and yeah, he just helped facilitate that. He had some ideas of his own, and I always, I mean, obviously, since that period, I've changed as a filmmaker, as a director, even as a person. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty smooth actually. Like, it's pretty cool. The best, I would say, in terms of my working relationship on that very first film, it was actually with the musician. It was with the music composer. He was, and you know what? I mean, he was such a great guy. He was actually one of the sound trainees that I met during Fresh Meat, where I got the advice from the director himself to say, go out and make films. And I mean, this guy. I mean, he does his own music stuff. He's a sound recordist, you know, and a boom operator for different TV shows here in the UK. Anyway, but yeah, like that was so smooth. Like he just like I think the best thing about the reason why it worked so well is that I gave him the script first before I actually started shooting, so that we could have that discussion. You know, getting part of the creative process,
Right.
and yeah, like it worked really well. And by the way, that's something that I have learned because another film that I made after, I ended up getting a composer after the film was shot. It didn't work as well, but that's a lesson learned. Like always get everyone from the post department, get them as early as pre. You know, just get them to read the script and get them involved as early as you can. But
That's
yeah,
good advice.
yeah. But yeah, like the editing process, it was pretty straightforward, I'd say. So it was easier, I'd say, just to collaborate with an editor.
I went for directing, and I fell in love with post production. I fell in love with editing. So I love directing. I love writing, directing, and editing because that's pretty much the whole process, right? And you do your own editing now. Like the one you just shot last month, you're in the process of editing.
Well, yeah, I mean, with a lot of the monologues that I'm doing, I've been doing the editing myself, and I would say that anyone that wants to direct, I would say do some editing. It helps you with visual storytelling.
Oh,
More than
if you can shoot with an editor's mind, you save so much time and experimentation.
yeah, well,
If you
that's
have it
exactly
cut in your brain, right, when you get on set.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. Like that's exactly that was the next point I was going to make is that if
I
you're going
know.
to be, yeah, it's fine. But yeah, like you, yeah, honestly, like if you get on set and you have that edit, like if you shoot for the edit, I mean, you'll be able to know exactly what coverage you need, like when to cut, how is this going to transition into that, and even in your actors' performances, just to make sure that whatever movement they make is consistent, that it is streamlined, It
And it frees you up for time for experimentation too, if you get all your coverage.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, definitely. Like you get those extra shots in. You can go to an actor and say, let's try something different. Let's mix it up a little bit. Once you get everything that you need. So yeah, I think editing definitely helps with directing. I'd say definitely.
So now I want to ask you your thoughts. What do you think about the current state of the film industry? Not distribution wise, not content wise, but actually making films, like quality films.
Quality films. Well, I think for a lot of people listening, like this might sound obvious, but I think the challenge is different than it was 30 years ago. I think 30 years ago, it was harder to make a film only because like all the equipment and everything was just so expensive. A guy like Robert Rodriguez had to. I mean, you've read the book, you've read Rebel Without a Crew. Like he had to do all sorts of experimentation and sell his body to science just to raise the money for a feature, just so you could afford the equipment.
Yeah.
Right. But there was less people doing it. I mean, I think in 1992, in the UK, about 6 feature films were made that year in 1992, which is, it's insane when you think about it by today's standards.
Right.
Because 6 feature films throughout an entire, well, not even one country. The UK is like 3, essentially, 3 countries. Well, I mean, if you count Northern Ireland as well, but it's the same thing. but I mean, it was harder to make films then, but easier to get it seen. Whereas opposed to today, everybody's got an iPhone. Everybody's got, they've got a camera that they can use, and it's so much easier to get stuff made now. I mean, just look at YouTube. I mean, there's so much content on YouTube. Like it's almost impossible to see all of it. It really is.
500 hours are uploaded every minute.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, there's just so much out there, and the challenge now is just getting it seen, just getting people to watch your content, and it's harder. I mean, there's some good stuff out there, but problem is that most people are spoiled for choice,
Hmm.
and even like I mean, if you go to any independent art house cinema, like in your local area, you want to see the next indie darling film out there. Usually, those type of films, they're the cream of the crop. They're at the very top that you're watching. I mean, there's like thousands and thousands of films that have not been seen. I think the problem with the problem with the state of filmmaking now, I think the problem is I don't know. Like I think the issue is that it's it's difficult for anyone to try and get invested in anything original, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because it's safer to do well-known IPs or sequels or reboots.
That's exactly
It's
it.
safer financially. Now, would you say, because you mentioned that, you know, 99 2, 6 films came out of the UK.
Yeah.
And now it's so easy. Do you think we're suffering because there's, and I'm not talking YouTube or anything, I'm talking like in the Hollywood industry and, with streaming and everything. Do you think we're suffering because it's so easy to put up these productions now? I'm not using the term easy as flippantly. I would say easier than it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Are we suffering? Because most stuff I look at now, it all looks the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think the higher studio level, I don't think they've ever had an issue with getting films made. I mean, when I said that 6 features were made in the UK in 1992, I'm talking mainly independent films.
Oh, okay. I apologize.
Yeah, no, but I think the problem with the mainstream, I think, and this is from conversations I've had with certain people about this, is that they're in a tough spot in that they do want new content, they do want new ideas, but they're afraid to pull the trigger on it because a lot of them don't want to lose their jobs, and a lot of them are looking to see whether or not this is something that's something that's a safe bet, essentially.
Mm,
I mean, yeah, I mean, you look at, I mean, yeah, you look at what's that film? Was it Captain Marvel? It just
yeah.
what? So a few years ago, that hit the $1 billion mark. It was fucking hell. It wasn't really that good of a film, but it generated the money based on the fact that it was Marvel. It was the MCU, right? So I think at a certain point, they're not even. It's not even about quality at a certain point, really. It's
Well,
just about.
yeah. Did you see Book of Boba Fett this week?
I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. No,
Okay.
no.
Well, I'm not going to give anything away except, well, I don't know. Can I tell you my vague impressions of it?
Okay.
Okay. They had a chance to do something different than they have had with the other shows that Disney's been putting out. And I don't want to go on my tirade. Chuck's not here to be like, but the lighting to me. Um, but it's just like Hawkeye and WandaVision, and you know, it's got that even keel lighting. It's got the safe camera movements, and I wasn't fully convinced that Robert Rodriguez directed it until I saw his name at the end.
Yeah.
I was disappointed in that aspect, you know, and
Yeah.
this is what I was trying to get at about uh, where we are in the film industry right now. I'm finding that they could, if you're not going to take risks with IPs and new projects, why are they playing it safe, technically wise and visually wise with these properties? Because they want to get the most mass appeal. Do you think that there's going to be a renaissance period after this?
You know what? I really hope so. Like I
Yeah,
really do,
that's good.
and I do see it happening eventually because, it's, I mean, other filmmakers will have different philosophies, but my philosophy has always been always try and reach the smartest person in the room. You
Mm,
know, don't try and dumb down your story just so that it appeals to everyone. Because when you try and make everyone happy, no one's happy. You know,
True.
and it's just it is one of those things where it's commerce meets creativity, and it's a case where, you know, a lot of intellectual property, it's built just for it's supposed to change, it's supposed to evolve. You know, I mean, don't like the very first Batman movie I watched was on VHS as a kid. You know, it was Michael Keaton. You know, the very first Batman.
1989.
That's the one, like the year I was born, and it was yeah, it was a good movie, but like that movie would not have played well in 2005. You know, it would have been considered too campy, too you know, just it's not. It was a period of its time, and I think that's the problem. Like with a lot of intellectual properties, I think the problem is that they're not taking the risk to evolve them, adapt them, you know, allow them to change. You know, and I feel like it has to, because that's what creative people do. Like, we're not creating stuff that's already been. I mean, we're
Well, that's what
supposed
film is all about.
exactly. That's exactly it. And I mean, Man of Steel is a great example. Like, it was mixed. Like, when I watched it in the cinema, I fell in love with it instantly. I loved it, you know. And I love Christopher Reeves when it was out, but I think the problem is that with Man of Steel, the reason it got so much hate is because so many people were still so enamored with Richard Donner's Superman with Christopher Reeves that they just couldn't get past it. I only feel now that people are starting to appreciate Man of Steel now,
Hmm.
you know, as opposed to what it was then. But it needed that. It needed that change. I mean, even something as simple as the fact that you're not wearing red trunks over the costume. I mean, the only reason that was part of the look in terms of the comic books initially, that was what the strong man would wear during the, you know, P.T. Barnum's circus. Right?
Yeah.
That was the costume they would wear. It doesn't make any sense. Like, if you're going to update it for the 21st century, that look doesn't look. It just looks. It looks silly. You know, it does. I mean, it just. So it needed to adapt. It needed to change. And I think one of the great things about the film, one of the great things I love about the Snyderverse is that I think, as opposed to the MCU, and by the way, I'm not bashing the MCU. I think what they've done in terms of light-hearted action comedy, escapism, you know, which there's a market for, and there is some artistic merit to that as well. I think the counterculture to that with the Snyder's DC is that they are trying to add a little bit of nuance, elements of, you know, independent art, independent art house feel to it, you know. Whereas it means something, you know, it's linked into Greek mythology, it's linked into the subtext of, okay, what if Superman actually existed in our world? You know, how would we react? You know, you listen, you watch Man of Steel, you watch Batman vs Superman. It's a story about, it's much a story about humanity as it is about this godlike alien among us. You know, it's very much an us story as much as it is. And I think the problem is that with some audience members, they don't want to have to work. They don't want to have to. I don't want to call them stupid, because that's not fair. But they're used to being sedated in such a way where they don't want to have to engage their brain as much in order to really delve into the story. And do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, because the studios want that $1 billion mark on all their films, on all their tentpole films. In order to get that, they want to cover all the bases. They want it to be PG-13, so they don't alienate part of the audience. They don't want it to. They don't really want to take too many risks, so they don't want to alienate the audience. And most of the audience just wants to have their popcorn, leave their brain at the door, and go enjoy the film. They don't want to think. And I'm not speaking for everyone, but in my experience, this is like, look at how well the Fast and Furious movies do. Like, they're dumb, but they're fun, you know? And that's where the term blockbuster came from. But even, well, the term blockbuster came from Jaws, Steven Spielberg's Jaws. He's like, oh, let's release this in the summer. And everyone's like, no, no one's ever released a big tentpole in the summer. It's unheard of. He's like, no, we'll release it in the summer. And that started off the whole blockbuster craze.
Yeah.
But now it's, and you're exactly right. You're talking about Man of Steel and Marvel. And, you know, we've also, not we, but you've seen my video about why the film industry should restore the Snyderverse. And I tried to articulate my points as well as I could, but I'm not the most articulate man. But I think it's depressing right now because they want that 1 billion mark. They want as many subscribers as they can. They play it safe. But before, it was, if a studio, like say in the 80s and 90s, played it safe, the movie would do well, but it wouldn't do as well as, okay, how do I put this? There used to be a time where films would come out and then it was okay, but you know, I'd see what they were trying there, you know. But now it's either, oh, that film is good because they played it safe, it hit the 1 billion mark, and then the other films that don't play it safe, they're like, oh no, it's not what we want. Now, do you think this is a taste of audience because they've been fed what we should like that gets the $1 billion approval? Does that make sense there? It's a hard subject to grasp for me.
You know what I think it is? I think there is a point where there is a section of viewing audience that they want to be sedated. You know, they want that escapism, leave your brain at the door. You know, the Joss Whedon-esque type of quippy humor, which I'm not a fan of anyway. I've never been a fan of his work. I know people in the chat are gonna be like, oh, but Buffy and Firefly. I'm like, well, fuck Buffy and Firefly. I was never a fan. If you like it, that's fine. But I'm just pointing it out there. But it's just, I think, yeah, there is a part of an audience that they want that escapism. You know, people have got lives. You know, they've got jobs, they've got responsibilities, and they want that hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, just to have a bit of fun. But I do think there is another audience out there, and I think most audiences aren't stupid. You know, like you know, you look at television, you look at Netflix. I mean, there's some heavy subjects in there. There's some real artistry in the storytelling, and you know, it is there. You know, I think the problem is I think the executives are underestimating how intelligent the audience is. I'll put it this way.
That's a good point.
I'll use this as an example. 20 years ago, like, and I'm speaking as a film director, as a storyteller. 20 years ago, well, actually no, 30 years ago, because I'm thinking Falling Down was in 2004. So 30 years ago.
Joel Schumacher.
So 30 years ago, like, if you wanted to make a movie about Adolf Hitler, like, you could make a movie about Adolf Hitler. He can be the cartoony guys that goes, and be just this caricature of a person, and that'll be fine. With today's audiences, you can show him loving his dog. You can show him eating vegetarian food. You can show him being a person and laughing and just, you know, interacting and being human. But he's still a monster. You know, that's what I'm saying. Like, the audience is more sophisticated than ever before, and they're really not that stupid. They are looking for more stuff, and I think, I mean, obviously you'll get your trolls who go, oh, Snyderverse ain't even that good. It's like, okay, fine. Like, if it's not for you, it's not for you. That's fine. But I think more than anything, I think the reaction online and with just the numbers and everything, I'm gonna name drop Mikey Sutton and Sil as well, like everything they're reporting and everything that you're doing with Geekosity as well. It's proven that actually the audience is very sophisticated. They do want more stuff. I think they want an alternative, you know, because I think firstly, I think it's very stupid to try and emulate the MCU. Not only have they cornered that genre, that style of comic book hero, that superhero movie genre, they've perfected it.
Yeah, but I think we all knew that when it was announced that DC was going to try and do that. Like, even the general audiences knew that was a bad idea.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, cool, we'll get Justice League, but if you do it backwards, it's not going to work. And DC right now is still trying to dig themselves out of that grave.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's well, and that's the thing. I mean, it's been 4 years. Like we've had that light-hearted MCU version of the DC, and it's not hit. Like some people have liked it, which is great, but it's just for the most part, people aren't even talking about it. Like I'll be honest, like after what Joss Whedon did with Justice League, I was so heartbroken. I remember being in the cinema. I was just like, because I had this instinct. I was like, because I was seeing what people were saying online. I'm like, oh, they're going to be pressured into trying making this into the MCU. I watched it in the cinema. I was just like, oh, like this. They've completely caved in. Like they
Mm.
just and yeah, I didn't watch another DC film until I think it was a couple of years ago when I was on the plane ride to Los Angeles for a film festival that I was attending. And I watched it on the plane. I wasn't really that impressed. I was like, okay, fine. Wonder Woman was actually pretty good. I actually liked that. I wasn't completely blown away, but like, that was enjoyable. But the rest of them was just like, yeah, I guess this is what DC's doing now. For a while, I did kind of give up on it, but when the Snyder Cut came out in March, completely blown away. Like I just
Mm.
unbelievably obsessed with this film. Like it's just ridiculous. It wasn't it was Lord of the Rings. It was Lawrence of Arabia. It was this grand epic journey. It's just this grand scale epic world that you just felt part of. I mean, that's why that's why so many people have clamoured onto it. I mean, I think if they'd have tried to make it this light, fun, folksy thing, it just would have got lost in the shuffle. And that's the problem. Like when you try and compare yourself to stuff that's already been, you're always going to be overshadowed.
The only comparison between the DC films and the Marvel films is that there's superheroes in there. Right? That's
Well,
it.
that's it. You're exactly right. Exactly right. I mean, it's just like I think the tone has always been different as well. Is that, and maybe I'm reading too much into this. I don't know.
No, I
Maybe.
think I know where you're going with this. Like Christopher
Yeah.
Nolan, he set up his own world, and it's such a completely different tone
Yeah.
than when Iron Man came out. I know Batman Begins and stuff, but yeah, the tone is. I don't think you're reading too much into it, and I think when they drop the ball is when they try and emulate the tones, and this goes back to what we were talking about indie filmmakers making movies about other movies, right?
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I really liked Shazam. I know a lot of people didn't. I liked Shazam. I thought it was a good, friendly family movie, and that's what it should have been because it's perfect subject matter for that,
Yeah.
right? You picked Billy Batson's perfect character for that. Now, Wonder Woman 84, I enjoyed it. It seemed like such a stark contrast from her introduction in Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
It was. She shows up and she's got her shield and she's got the badass music behind her, and that's still my favorite moment from that film.
Yeah.
If we got a trilogy of those kind of movies showing that kind of Wonder Woman, I would have been really happy. But if it doesn't make $1 billion, then executives get cold feet and they start making changes, which they have to answer their stockholders. Which brings me back to the whole Renaissance thing. Like you have the Snyderverse fans fighting to restore the Snyderverse. They want to see Zack's vision. Are they fighting so hard just because it's Zack Snyder? Or is it because it's something different?
Honestly, I think in my heart of hearts, I think it's because it's different. I think it's because there's a huge audience out there that they really appreciate this. They really appreciate this, and from the beginning. Like I remember when I watched Batman versus Superman in theaters, I really enjoyed it, but I just felt like there was something missing.
Mm.
But when I watched the Ultimate Edition, like the 3 hour film, it felt shorter, and that's because there was so much in terms of the plot, and plot detail is just so important. Like people don't even realize like the added espionage element of seeing who Lex Luthor is. Like I hope I'm not giving away. I mean, you guys have probably already seen it, so it's not a spoiler at this point. But like the espionage case of where Lex Luthor's trying to sabotage Superman as being this villain. It added so much. Like it added so much. I mean, it's just, and it did work, and it was like these were amazing films because it is different, and people that, like I said, there's an audience out there that do want escapism, and they do want to be, and it's just about having fun, having a good time. But then there's others that want to be challenged. They want to be able to think. They want to be able to, engage with the story on a much deeper level and a much more emotional level as well. And
Those kind of films are getting drowned out now
well,
in today's industry.
well, and I think that is such a massive shame because I think the problem is that I don't even think it's necessarily the audience. I think the problem is that there's this, and I'm more of an outsider, so this is an educated guess. Is that they're thinking the Marvel formula, the MCU formula, is the way forward,
Hmm.
and it just is. Like if that was the case, the boys on Amazon, like that wouldn't be doing well, but it does well, and it's comedy, but it's cynicism, it's cynical. It's about power corrupting absolute, ultimate power corrupting absolutely, right?
And a reflection on the society too.
Exactly, right? I mean, it's a much more cynical take, and it is funny, but there is a deeper meaning that, like, actually, you know what? If human beings had these godlike powers, then what's to say that they wouldn't use that to cash it in and make billions of dollars and actually not give a shit about the people that they're saving anyway, right? I mean, it's different from
Yeah.
the MCU. I think the difference is that with MCU, like the heroes feel like they're having a good time. Like, oh, we're all having a great time. It's all fun. But the problem is like, yeah, the audience is having fun, but you don't really feel like the world is in danger. There's not that level of gravitas. There's not that level of, oh shit, like something bad is going to happen right now.
Do you
Whereas,
think that do you think that the film industry is at risk, or films in general is at risk to just become popcorn entertainment, be labeled as that?
I, you know what? There's a part of me thinks that it will. But I don't think I don't think completely. Because I mean, if you look at television, I mean, television and online streaming, I think there is still room out there for
Yeah, but
real.
those are series now, and they've
Yeah,
become kind of the place to take risks and tell long form storytelling.
yeah,
I mean, like you mentioned The Boys, and if they spent 150 million to 250 million on a boys film, I don't think it would. I don't think the audiences or the critics would have reacted as favorably as they have on the Amazon series.
mm,
Like you can get away with a lot more on streaming. Film in particular used to be where, and I hate to keep saying like taking risks, but like trying new things and
yeah,
trying to elevate the medium.
yeah,
But now it's very safe, and if there's not a big shift, then it's going to keep being safe. Um, Hopefully there's a renaissance. Even Tarantino has said that there should be a renaissance in like hopefully in 10 years,
yeah.
because this happened after World War II, right? 50s was all homogenized, and that
Yeah,
bled into like to around 66, 67, and then the 60s was all about rebelling against that,
yeah,
and then 70s director driven era, and then the 80s was just the studios learning to make money off these movies, these blockbusters properly while working with these art house directors.
yeah. It's yeah. I mean, I do. Yeah, I do think that change is coming. I think more than anything, it is going to come from independent cinema. Like I don't, like I said. I mean, there are some indie filmmakers that I know that are just making films about other films.
Yeah, but we're at a
But
time right now where indie films is so hard to find.
well,
Unless
that
you
that
live in the city where they premiere in the theater, like they get drowned out online.
that's the problem. Like a lot of great stuff is made at the independent film level because we have a privilege that I don't think the studio has in that we can take risks with our storytelling. We can take risks. We can talk about subject matters that they're not going to be able to talk about because it's too controversial. Yeah, I mean, the next major film that I'm going to make it dives into the whole subject matter of mass shootings, the incel movement, about very deep, heavy stuff. I've been doing a lot of research about this. It's yeah, I mean, it's
Wow.
like writing it was quite emotionally, it was quite taxing for me especially during the pandemic. I was like, fucking hell, why am I even writing this? But like, you can tell stories like that, you know. At this level, I think the problem is that it's what you said, absolutely right. It's just getting it seen to a bigger audience. That's the challenge. It really is. I mean, it's difficult. I mean, most filmmakers at my level, they do get frustrated, like with funding and getting it seen and what have you. But I think that's where most of the best quality stuff you'll end up seeing actually is through indie filmmaking, because we can take those risks with the
Right.
subject matters. You know, I want to make this quick point. I do remember a film festival a couple of years ago. Someone did make like a superhero movie, right? A little short superhero movie, but they completely changed the genre on its head. And it wasn't it wasn't the whole MCU thing about, oh, he's coming in to save the day. It's more about the consequences of that superhero's actions. Like, try to save the day, a family died, and now he has to live with that. Now he has to live with it, and
Right.
it was so good, and it was an original concept. And I watched it, I was like, that's actually really good. Like, they could be doing stuff like that at Universal or I don't know, Disney or Warner Brothers, but they're not. You know, it's like, what? Why are we like? It's like there's no excuse. I don't want to badmouth them too much because I'm hoping eventually I'm going to get to that stage myself. But it's yeah. I mean, it's just for me. I just don't understand. A lot. I get it. Like, there's a profit and there's people don't want to lose jobs and stuff. But it's just like, how can a studio with so much resources, with so much at their so much disposable income at the tips of their fingers, how are they not creating these great, massive, epic sagas? You know, like what? You know, why is it just independent filmmakers that are taking these risks, right? But I don't know. I guess, like you said, shareholders and
Yeah,
fiscal
but hopefully
responsibility.
we've been seeing some day and date releases too, where they're in the theaters and they're on streaming. And I know like Amazon has been trying to make standalone films, and you know Netflix too, but they're still kind of playing it safe.
Yeah.
But hopefully that the studios realize that, you know, maybe if we do get that renaissance or whatever, it will come from streaming. We'll get those movies premiered on streaming and also in theaters, but they'll do day and date. They'll spend less money on the movies, but they'll spend the same amount on marketing as they do with like the big IPs, right? That way they can get their subscribers and get a little bit of the box office. Because, you know, Neo Sevens has a good point. It's like television has a larger reach. So it became a studio priority. And that's where we are in the 21st century. So if they combine that, and they can still push the envelope when it comes to filmmaking. But again, this is just new territory for the studios as well, right? So they don't want to take too many risks with streaming and lose so much money. Like Netflix was almost bankrupt at some point. So I know you got 21 minutes to midnight, Raj. You said we're 9 minutes over the allotted time you allowed me.
Yeah, so I'm just going to give it 5 minutes. One of the guys he's just popped into the room. He's going to try and peer pressure me into getting drunk tonight. And yeah, he doesn't have to do that much of a job to get me drunk. Yeah, so yeah, I've got a couple of minutes before I need to get going. But yeah, no, I just want to say, man, this has been a lot of fun, man. Like, thanks for having me back at the show. I'd love to come back again and talk again at some point.
Yeah, it would be great to talk to you about this even more. I'm glad I got you on. I'm glad that you said yes, because I really wanted to, after the last time you were on the stream, I really wanted to talk to you about this because I kept cutting you off. And we had 10 people in the chat, though, or on the screen. So
yeah, there was a lot of people.
We didn't even get to cover your short films that premiered in festivals and your accolades. I'd like to, and then, you know, go through your process of those. But next time would be good.
Yeah, definitely.
I have one last question. In terms of editing, and we don't have to get too into this, but this is one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, do you think that YouTube is being detrimental to the art of editing? Or filmmaking in general, but let's stick with editing right now.
Okay. I mean, in what way do you mean?
Well, okay, I can spend 3 days on a heavily edited video, right? And
Yeah.
it gets, 20,000 views, 5,000, 1,000, whatever.
Yeah.
Or you can put up like a 2-minute sloppily edited video with a couple like images, and then it gets like 50,000 views.
Mm.
Right? And the same kind of thing, like you spend a month making a short film, and you get nice, you get 3,000 views, and the guy puts up a 1-minute clip, and then it gets 1.5 million views. Like they say, it used to be you had to hold the audience attention on YouTube for like 30 seconds to 2 minutes, but now it's like something like 7 seconds.
Yeah. No, yeah, no, yeah, yeah. I get what you mean. I know it's a difficult one because obviously, like,
So
I
how
don't,
do
I
we
don't
adapt as filmmakers to this?
what
Like I want to make films too still,
Yeah.
and you obviously are making films still. Like how are you adapting to this online platform where everything is happening so fast? User retention is so low.
Yeah. Honestly, I think the only thing that's worked for me really in terms, I mean, I don't like using viewerships as a metric system to see whether a film's good or not.
Well,
But
no, I'm not. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking
yeah,
about right now. This is not to measure if the film is good or a video is good. I mean, you can have a meme that's 16 seconds, get 7 million views, and it's not as good as something that's well crafted,
yeah.
right? But my point being is, how do we utilize this as filmmakers to get our projects seen as much as that 16-second meme video?
Honestly, like,
And do you think it's
it
being used? Do you think it's being used against filmmakers?
see that's the thing. Like, it's difficult to answer. Really, I mean, it
Well,
is
it's just the
hard.
last question. It's just the
Yeah,
last question. You don't have to nail it or anything.
no, but yeah, I'd say if it's talking from the heart, not from deep down, I would say as long as you're making a film that you feel connected to, as long as you're telling a story that you feel like something that is deep within your own heart that you feel that you want to share to the world, I think you probably got the best chance of getting it
Make what you
seen.
love.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I
Yeah.
mean, as long as you're talking about the subject matters and telling the stories, telling the stories that you care about, then yeah, I think it'll find a home somewhere.
Good. Good answer. Yes. So hear that, kids. Make what you love. Don't care what anyone else thinks, and then the rest will come.
Exactly.
All right, Raj. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. It was a great talk.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
and
you. Oh, go ahead.
Happy New Year to you and everyone else in the chat. And yeah, see you in 2022.
Yep. Happy New Year's to you, Raj. And thanks for everyone in the chat joining. It's good to see you, Neo7, CB3, Jedi EJ Master, Chrisla, Clint, Sean Harrigan. He had a good point about the lightning. The tone really worked for Batman and Robin. And Batman Forever. Yep. Everyone in the chat. Kaz, thank you so much. Bobby, thank you for joining the chat. Really, really appreciate it. Happy New Year. And you can check out Raj on his twitter.com/RSharma Films. Check him out. He's got his demo reel, his show reel posted, pinned at the top there. Really great stuff. Thanks for everyone. We will talk to you.